Welcome to Sportsbet Daily at Oddsmarket.com. It's the Rugby World Cup. We're off to the land of the rising sun. Japan host this massive event. New Zealand had the hold over it last few years. Well, to talk us through it is my old mate Russ. Russ, New Zealand favourites, the defending champions. Surely they do it again, don't they?
Yeah, that's my tip. 3 out of 3. Especially with the World Cup being in Japan, I can only see the Southern Hemisphere teams really shining in the latter stages. Thus, New Zealand to win the Rugby World Cup, make it a hat-trick, but South Africa, I think, will push them all the way. Thus, the second tip, New Zealand-South Africa final at 7-2, 4.5. They play each other in the first pool match that we'll come on to later, that we've got a good tip for that. But I think they'll play each other in the first game, and they'll play each other in the final game. I
mean, we all love our rugby, obviously, in the Northern Hemisphere. England done so well over the last few years. Not so good last year in the Five Nations. I look at the outrights. We're going to get the outrights up. Rafa, can you stick the outrights up, please? We got New Zealand at 2.5. We've got South Africa 5.3. And then there's a discrepancy. England at 5.5. How are England at 5.5 and Ireland and Wales, who arguably are on a par, if not better, on their day, at 11? Is there any value outside of the top two?
I don't think so. It's Southern Hemisphere all the way for me. I just cannot see England, Ireland or Wales, especially when it gets to the knockout stages, where you are playing the top teams back to back to back, that they're going to be able to compete with New Zealand and South Africa whenever they play them, whether it's quarters, semis or the final itself. I think they're just too strong physically. They've both got fully fit squads where I think if England, Ireland or Wales pick up any injuries at all, they're just not going to be able to cope when it comes to the latter stages. As I said, the temperature, I think, is going to play a big part. And I just can't see it. But I do agree with you that Ireland and Wales 11 versus 5.5 England, that doesn't work for me either. I think on their day, Ireland and Wales could definitely beat England.
In your young life, have you seen Australia as big as 17 before? The Wallabies, they're always there or thereabouts. Surely somebody somewhere is going to be thinking New Zealand, Australia final, maybe even a South Africa. I mean, I can't see past New Zealand, to be honest, but a South Africa, Australia final, they're just massive. The Wallabies always turn up.
Yeah, look, it's going to be tough for them, but I just don't think they've got the strength in depth. And if you look at their form when they played New Zealand and South Africa in the Rugby Championship, they didn't perform well. They're just not scoring tries. They haven't got the flair they used to have when obviously they've won it previously and they played England in the 2003 World Cup. They've just got no cutting edge. That again, when it comes to playing the big teams, you need that cutting edge. You can play possession football, possession rugby. That's going to only get you so far. But I just don't think they're going to compete when it comes to the latter stages. Thus, they're 17. And again, the odds suggest they should qualify, but after that, I think England should beat them quite handsomely in the quarterfinals.
I had a little game with myself. Obviously, we don't want to get too personal, but I was just reeling off because obviously we get the championships about 8, 9 o'clock every Saturday morning when they kick off. New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. And I was like, there's Scott, there's Geordie, there's Bowden Barrett, there's Sam Whitlock, Kieran Reid, the captain, Sonny Bill Williams, who's been obviously in the news recently, and you got Patrick Tupolatu. They're just household names, and this is not our country. These are All Blacks who I just cannot see past them. I know the South Africans, they'll be led by Etzebeth, who's probably the number one lock in the world, but I just see them two. I mean, we're going to have a look. Name the finalists, Rafa. Stick that up on the board, please, because I think it was either Boyle Sports or one of the others, New Zealand, South Africa, 4-1. It was like, I think that's gone. I think it may well have gone. But I cannot see past that unless New Zealand, Australia at 14. It just looks like it's made for New Zealand, South Africa. What do you think?
Yeah, as I put in my futures report. New Zealand, South Africa, all the way. Repeating myself, the Southern Hemisphere teams, I think, will really shine here, which just goes to show how bad Australia are, that they're 17 for the outright. New Zealand, South Africa, they play each other in the first game. They've both got abundance of talent. They're physical. Defensively, they're very strong. And they've got the skill factor as well. You need all three to win the Rugby World Cup. You can't just be good at one, because these latter stage matches come quickly, and they're going to take a lot out of you. So you need to have plenty in the tank. And both of them have got good squads as well. So I said, when you've got quarterfinal, semi-final, final, you're playing the top teams in the world. That 4-1, they're both on different sides of the draw because they play each other in the first match. I think that's the final for me. One extra thing as well, the group stages, as well as New Zealand, South Africa, the rest of the group that they both play are rugby minnows. So both of them are really not going to be tested at all. It's just going to be like friendly matches. So they're going to have plenty in the tank when it comes to the quarterfinals, whereas England, Ireland, Wales, they've got some tough matches in their pool matches. So they need to be 100% for virtually every game to make sure they qualify.
Russ, you say it's going to be tough for the teams. How tough is it going to be for the viewers, especially those in the Northern Hemisphere, when you're like 5 o'clock in the morning, you're like 6:30. It's like you have to get up at the crack of just to view it. It's like unbelievable. 15 hours ahead of America, obviously at Eastern time. It's 17 hours from us in Costa Rica. It's going to be a tough view for the fans.
No. Saturdays when England play, can you imagine all the lads getting down the pub at 6:30, pub opening? They'll love it. 12 hours on the beer. I do remember actually watching when England won the Rugby World Cup in 2003. The pub opened at 7 in the morning. It was a fantastic atmosphere pre-match, and obviously England winning. Johnny Wilkinson kicking the all-important drop goal. Yeah, it was a fantastic morning. I do remember it very well.
Realistically, England, any chance whatsoever to even get in the semis?
Yeah, semi-final I think they can get to. I think they'll get beat by, I believe they play South Africa in the semis if the draw pans out how I see it. But they'll need everything to click. They'll need luck to go their way. They'll need all their top 15 players fit throughout the tournament. But I just can't see it. I just don't think they've got the strength in depth. Johnny May's good. Ben Youngs, Owen Farrell, he can kick well. He's obviously a key asset for England. But I just don't think they've got the strength in depth up front to compete.
OK, I've asked Rafa to stick up 2 pool matches I want to get your view on. Rafa, can you stick up the first one, please? New Zealand play South Africa. We think this could be the final. The bookies have it. New Zealand 1.5, draw 29, South Africa 4. But with a 7-point handicap, you get at 2 -7 for New Zealand and at 2 +7 South Africa. Is that gap too big?
Yeah, we just spoke about that before we come on. +7 South Africa 2.0. I'd be all over. Tip that up in the pool tipping sheet that I sent across. I had +8 at 1.91. But now there's +7 at 2.0. Yeah, it's nice to get a 2.0 in. I think it's going to be very, very close. Could even be a tie. I don't think there'll be a lot between either team's 5 points max. So, yeah, the +7 is good. +8, even better.
I wouldn't put anyone off, actually. The +7 tie. 18-1, so you can get it at 19. I can see New Zealand winning this by a try or converted try. 7 points at 18-1. It's funny how that often does do you over because they had that free team or free option selections, and I like just a small one at 18. New Zealand to win by 7. Rafa, can you stick the other one up? Because these are 2 of the home nations. I think there could be an upset here. Ireland 1.33, draw 29, Scotland 4, but Ireland -9 at 2, Scotland +9 at 2, and the tie with the points at 18-1 again. Where are you going, Ireland, Scotland?
I've got this Ireland to. I've gone for the winning margin here. I believe I've gone for Ireland to win between 1 and 12 points. I think this is going to be close. I think Ireland will win. I think Ireland have got better players. I think Ireland showed against England So Ireland showed against Wales in the pre-warm-up matches that they've got a strong team. Scotland, I think they played Georgia twice and beat them quite convincingly. So I'm not sure they've had a warm-up that Ireland have had. Ireland have played Wales twice and England, so they've been very, very competitive. So I think Ireland will be ready for this. I think Ireland will win, but I don't think it'll be more than 12 points. So I've gone for the winning margin there between 1 and 12.
Okay, well, let's have a little quick round-up. Just give me your three then. I know you're repeating yourself, but we've just got to nail it down, and then obviously we'll be talking throughout the tournament. Winner.
Sure. Winner, New Zealand.
Finalists.
New Zealand, South Africa. 4.
You like that one, didn't you? You do like that one.
Yeah, big time.
Okay, and obviously you're going to go with South Africa getting the points, and you're going with Ireland giving up the points.
No, we've got Ireland winning margin between 1 and 12 points.
Okay, so you wouldn't go with -9 then?
No, I think it could be tight, but Ireland will win.
Okay, so is there, just before I let you go then, because I'm thinking you could have both teams on your side, could you go Scotland +9 and you could go Ireland to win by 1 to 12?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's the first game is the one that, even obviously if you look at the Football World Cup, the first one, you just want to get that over with a good performance. And I think Scotland, for them, they'll have their eyes on other matches where they can win. This one, I think it's going to be very physical, but I think Ireland they're too skillful. They've got more experienced players. Rory Best, world-class rugby player, over 100 caps. He'll lead them, and I think they'll be up for it a little bit more than the Scots.
Russ, I'm going to let you go. Go and enjoy the game tonight, even though I know you're a Leyton Orient and crew. Fancy that's going to be a bit of a dullard. I think the highlight of your day, you've just had it. I'll see you soon, mate.
Oh. Cheers, Flash.
Take care, Russ. See you again soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
That was Russ covering the Rugby World Cup over in Japan. He's not in Japan, he's in London. He's gone to watch Leyton Orient and crew. Oh, what a dullard game that is. Okay, we're going to go off to Russia now. It was China last week where the boys, the tennis boys, Snize and James, gave us Petra Martic 12-1. She came second. Lads, how are we?
Not too bad, thank you.
Snize, we're at the post. We're at the post with Martic last week, although she was up against a tournament joint favourite was Svetlana Pliskova. I mean, she got destroyed in the final, but the money was still there. We had her each way at 12s. Picking up's nice. What can we expect from the St. Petersburg Open, James?
Okay, so we have 2 ATP events this week. St. Petersburg is the one that is in Russia. It probably has slightly more high-profile names in it, but they're very comparable, very heavy weeks, which is what you often expect. After the Slam, you'll have a few events which will kind of, this lower-ranked players will often want to get some points, get on the leaderboard. But really we see Medvedev coming back after his really strong run at the US Open to head this field. Probably the biggest, most obvious question is, will he be able to keep it up? I mean, he's defied all expectation in terms of fatigue so far, but he's certainly got a burnout at some point. You'd expect that the US Open final would be, taking Rafa to 5 sets. He almost took it in that 5th set as well at the start. So, he'll probably be on a come down from that, would be my guess. So he heads the top of the field. You have Kachanov at the bottom of the field, who's a player who should be feeling like it's his time of year now. This should be his kind of period where he's should be a bit fresher. He's not played that many matches, should be able to do better, but he hasn't played that well this year. And then we've got Chorich, who's got fitness concerns. We've got Berrettini, who played really well at the US Open. So we've got quite a strong top of the field in St. Petersburg.
Snize, when you went through this tournament and you have a little look and Medvedev's at the top and you're thinking to yourself, well, the crowd could carry him, but is he any value at the top of the market?
I would say no. So just to key in a little bit on this event and what to expect, this is a very weird week on the ATP schedule. The tour moves indoors for just the 1 week before we move over to the Asian hardcourt swing. So very strange position here with players coming from the US Open and the North American hardcourt swing, squeeze in this little random indoors week, and then they move on to Asia and an entirely different continent. So that makes it so it's pretty difficult to gauge where the players' mentalities are at if they're preparing for the Asian swing, if they're really into it physically and mentally. And we've seen that a bit thus far. A lot of underdogs have come through thus far in those two tournaments in Metz and St. Petersburg. So yeah, the first 4 seeds here, they each have a bye. And I do not think that Medvedev is value at the top of the pile because he has played, I think it's 23 matches in the last 35 days. Like James said, eventually he will run out of gas. And also worth noticing is that no top seed has won this tournament in the last 10 years, apart from Dominic Thiem, and that was last year. So it's a very, very bad tournament to back the number 1 seed, and they do not seem to prevail. So I would not see he's the value there.
Okay, well, I'm going to go straight to the outrights. Rafa, if you can stick the first one up. Ricardas Berankis at 41. Who wants to take it away, James or Snize?
Snize tipped it. I'll let him describe it.
Go on then, Snize.
Yeah. So Ricardas Berankis, he's been placed in the first quarter, and Ricardas Berankis is a great indoors player who usually does his best work during this part of the season. This is his time of year. He has 171-87 career record indoors. He made the quarterfinal here along with a Moscow final in 2017, made the Moscow quarterfinal last year. So there's plenty of evidence to suggest that he does do really well in this part of the year. He crushed Dudi Sela in the first round, already came through a match there 6-3, 6-love. And as we've said here, Medvedev has been making Ironman run after Ironman run. And eventually he will just run out of steam. And I think Berankis is the standout value here price-wise. In this top half, the other seeds, we have Rublev, who only had a 9-15 indoor hardcourt record on the main tour prior to this. We have Matteo Berrettini, who doesn't move that well indoors. And just checking on the bottom half, we have Borna Coric, who's barely been fit all season. So really, it's a great chance for him. It's a small tournament. Obviously, he's already won his first match now, which means he's already in the round of 16. So the path to the final is pretty short in this small tournament. And he was one of the biggest prizes on the board, and I don't think that's justified at all. So he was my first selection there.
James, there's something we've got to tell people, because we've just come off the back of a major where everything was 5 sets. This is the best of 3. Is this why there's better value in the bigger price players? I mean, we're going to have a look. Mikhail Kukushkin at 26. I mean, that looks massive as well.
So Mikhail actually had a really good win over Bautista at the US Open. I think he was priced 8 in that match. So he's coming into this in good form as well. And yeah, absolutely. I think it's not necessarily that it's the 5 sets specifically that does it, although that clearly has an impact in terms of fitness, professionality. But it's really just the motivation of the players. The top players will obviously be much more inclined to put their effort in the slams, in the masters, and in the sort of 500s, the bigger events. A week and a half, 2 weeks after a major is probably a time where they're more inclined to be resting. Hence why, I think speculating that Medvedev is probably not going to be putting in 100% is probably a good idea. I mean, I think he's being priced up pretty much as if he was going to play near his best. So, I think it's sensible to assume he won't. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but Kukushkin, he's playing in front of the home crowd as well. I mean, surely Medvedev returning, he's almost like a hero. Like England, they get to the semi-final, they come back home, and even though they've been nowhere near the winners, they still get that sort of hero's welcome. Do you not think that he's going to get that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think they will, if they've got any sense about them, they'll be loving every minute of Medvedev at the minute. But yeah, I think Kukushkin is the kind of player who, I mean, he showed it at the US Open. He's able to beat these top guys even over the best of 5. But when it comes to indoor hard, I mean, it's by far his best surface. He loves the flatter ball, so he does a lot better on the slightly lower bouncing surfaces. He tends to prefer the perfect conditions. He's one that hits the ball very clean, so he doesn't do quite as well in the sort of windy conditions or the sun and things like that. And yeah, I mean, he's got an excellent record here as well. And I really think he's the kind of player that will be able to push the top guys and give them a few questions.
James, when does he play next, Kukushkin?
I will just find that for you now. 1 second.
Well, while you do, Snize, we're going to have a little look at one of the individual games. Alexander Bublik on the money line at 1.77 against Casper Ruud.
Indeed. So this is a match that goes off tomorrow, and this is also a match that I've previewed in an article that will be coming up on Oddsmarket.com either tonight or tomorrow, so be sure to check that one out. So this is a very interesting matchup. Casper Ruud is being hailed as the next coming of Christ by many this season. He has made fantastic strides. He's been up at a career high of 54. He's been in finals and played really well. A lot of people seem to love him. He emulates Rafael Nadal's style. He's trained at his academy. But the thing is, he has almost no success whatsoever outside of the red dirt. He's almost exclusively a clay court player, and this is actually his first ever main draw indoors ATP match. His opponent, Bublik, on the other hand, certainly doesn't share the same love for the dirt as he does. He almost exclusively plays on outdoor or indoor hard courts. That makes up 73.2% of all of his career matches. He's mostly played on challenger level this season with great results. He's won 2 titles indoors in Budapest and Pau, and he also won 1 outdoors in Monterrey. He has a huge game, very flat strokes, powerful serve, and usually does not do well outside of the faster surfaces. But here he does. And usually he's done well at this part of the year. In Russia, the Kazakh made back-to-back quarterfinals in Moscow during the 2016 and during the 2017 season as a qualifier. And he already has 2 challenger titles to his name. He's racked up a 66% win rate on this surface. And the surface advantage is just massive here. These players are similarly ranked. Ruud ranked 60 right now. Bublik ranked 70. And he should be the big favorite here, in my opinion.
I noticed that Bublik and Kukushkin, they partnered each other in the doubles. They got knocked out. So that means that now they can concentrate on their singles campaign. James, what did you find out for me?
Yeah, so Kukushkin plays tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So you are not going to get the 26 that was offered at the start of the week. But I think he's still going to be value. He had a win in the first round, priced 1.61. So it shouldn't destroy his price, I don't think. But yes, tomorrow at 2 o'clock is when it starts.
Okay, well, let's put St. Petersburg in the bin. We know that Kukushkin at 26 and Barankas at 41. If you get Kukushkin around the 20 to 1 mark, he's still great value. Let's go to
he's available at 19 right now, actually. Just shaking in the bets 365 have their markets up right now. If you haven't grabbed them at 26 already, as we tipped in the outright article, get him at 19. That's still value price.
And that's why
34.
Yeah,
still very nice.
Snize, I couldn't agree more. But this is another reason why, obviously, we do sports bet daily at oddsmarket.com. Go over to oddsmarket.com. These boys put their articles up as soon as a draw's made, before a ball's hit, and you can get on early doors. So although we love you watching here and we enjoy you watching, go over and read their articles. It does give you a jump on the field. As I said last week, we had the runner-up in the women's tournament in China. Now we're off to the Osaka Pan Pacific for the WTA. And James, you can start me off here. It was all about Naomi Osaka.
So the namesake. I think this is Osaka, to me, is one of those players where when she hits a groove, you really want to stay out of the way. Just wait until she burns out a bit. But she's had fitness issues recently, and I think I would imagine she is the fair favourite for the tournament, but I doubt that the odds offer great value on her outright. I think the difficulty with someone like Osaka is that she's probably going to play well at home. She's a very professional player. She will, I think, have wanted to play well here. She'll have scheduled this in effectively. But I'm just not quite sure the level's there for her at the minute to justify relatively heavy favoritism at 3-1.
Okay, we look at this this whole tournament, Snize, and you see Osaka, and you see Madison Keys. If you followed us over the last few weeks, she was one of our 2 tips. I say ours because I'm just a teammate and I'm repeating what you boys picked up. Why have you not gone for her again, Snize?
It's just that this initially when I looked at the draw, and if you follow me on Twitter at SnizeMaster, I've tweeted out my outrights already Sunday for this week. She's been placed in the bottom half of the draw here, which is pretty loaded, at least name-wise. We have the likes of Angelique Kerber, Donna Vekic, and Kiki Bertens in that half. And one I expected to do really well, Diana Yastremska, is already out, which has opened up the pathway now. This is also reflected in the odds. Let me just have a quick look for the quarters markets here. Yeah, Keys is now down to 2 to win that quarter. So if you got on her, prior to the knockout of Yastremska, that would have been huge value. But now I think the price is fair and no value there. But I just don't trust Keys. She can be inconsistent when she isn't at her best. She struggled a bit with an illness at the US Open and didn't perform well at all when she lost to Svitolina. Errors galore. And that worries me a little bit. I prefer the consistency of Donna Vekic in that section. And I think that she has a great pathway. They're slated to meet in the semifinals. And it's actually Vekic that I've gone for outright now that Yastremska has been knocked out. I think at this price, available at 9, she is the standout value there. So I went with Vekic to win this tournament now with a half unit.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it earlier and I saw that you could get 10-1, 11-1. I informed you boys that you said you put up 9. Should have known, can't teach old dog new tricks. They were all ahead of me. The 10s and 11s had gone. It's now 8s, 8-1 at 9s. Okay, well, James, have a look at this for me. Match bet, Madison Keys versus Diaz. You've gone for 2-0 at 1.8.
Yeah, so this is, I think Snize made the point that I think Keys can be quite inconsistent, and I think this is true. She's very much the kind of player where, again, kind of like Osaka, you want to get on the right side of her. She did have illness issues coming at the US Open, but she's looked very consistent recently. She's been very kind of in the right headspace the last few weeks. And I think in her first round, she struggled a little bit, but she, again, looked quite focused. She won it in straight sets, and she was able to, I would hope, shake off a few cobwebs from a couple of weeks. But the key to this bet really is Diaz. I think the question usually when you have an underdog priced at about 4.5 is just, are they going to be able to compete with an elite top 20 player? And Diaz has really shown over the past few years that she just has no ability to do that. She's lost 17 in a row priced over 3 against the top 20 going back to 2015. And in 15 of those matches, the straight sets has come in. So that's 88% of her matches since 2015 in sort of similar situations. And while Keys is not the most reliable player, she beat Diaz 7-6, 6-1 at the Australian Open last year. And I would expect more of the same. She's won 8 of her last 10 matches in straight sets when priced as the favorite. Again, as I say, that can change. She can lose it. It might be that she's tipping away, but it doesn't look like it to me at the minute. And I would expect her to win that very comfortably.
Yeah, we just don't want to see that petulance that we saw in stages Flushing Meadow. The thing is, we're going to go and have a look at Nicole Gibbs and Angelique Kerber. You think this might be a bit closer, Snize? Over 2.5 sets at 2.7. That's great value. Is it because Kerber, you don't trust her to get the job done early?
That's quite right. But I want to start a little bit with Nicole Gibbs before we go into Angelique Kerber's well-documented struggles here. It's been quite the journey for her this season. The former NCAA doubles and singles champion decided to act upon a promo offer by her dentist back in April. Little did she know that will be a huge part of this season for her. It was discovered that she has a rare form of salivary gland cancer, and this cost her, well, just to quote her, I made a mistake of going to WebMD and doing a Google search for oral cancer because I didn't have any more specifics at that point. And the first thing that popped up was 70% 5-year survival rate. Oh, fuck, cool, I'm going to die. Luckily for her, it turned out to be less severe than that. And she's come back well now, making the ITF Honolulu final. She qualified for the US Open. She pushed Simona Halep very, very hard in a 3-set match there. And she's won all 3 of her matches here in straight sets, including a 2-0 win over Alison Risk, who, as we know, we were on against this very opponent in Kerber last week in Shenzhou. And so, talking a bit about Kerber, her woes continue. She's lost 5 straight matches now, hasn't won since the first round of Wimbledon. Despite leading at several points versus Risk, she could not close the match out. And the former world number 1 continues to slide down the rankings. And is now ranked world number 15. She has no titles this year, but she will have a massive opportunity here as she has no points to defend. But I just think that Gibbs has impressed in her first few matches here. She will have adjusted to the conditions and she'll be confident. Kerber, on the other hand, is ice cold and in dire need of a win. And just getting over the line for her has been an almighty struggle. And if we look at her last 5 matches, 4 of them have gone the distance. And in this first time meeting, there's no reason to suspect that Gibbs won't give her a tough fight here. We're once again likely to see a brutal battle, and though the world number 1 former will eventually get over a slump, I think that we have great value on a longer affair here.
Yeah, without trying to throw you both under the bus, James, what price would Gibbs be to beat Kerber outright?
To beat Kerber outright?
Yeah.
I can't actually remember her price. I assume she's, 3.2, 3.3?
She's actually over 3.5 and 3.55, somewhere around that range.
Excellent. So, I mean, listen, there might be some value in that as well, because the only downside of going for Gibbs over Kerber over 2.5 sets is if Kerber chucks it and Gibbs wins 2-0.
Mm.
So you could, would you go for, could you do that? Do you think there's value in that?
I wouldn't mind definitely, backing Gibbs on the money line as well. I think she has a fair shot at the upset. The thing is, even if Kerber is struggling mightily, she is still a player of extremely high pedigree, and she's not a player that usually just packs it in against the opposition that isn't, truly elite. Gibbs is ranked outside of the top 100. And even if she's going to get off to a great start, I don't think she'll be able to get her down in straight sets. But definitely worth a little flyer. I think this price is a little bit high right now, but the main bet is definitely going the distance. I do have a feeling that Kerber might, just get this final win, finally break out of the slump, but it's going to be tough.
Okay, Snize, James, keep up the great work. The big thing is, ladies and gents, you get yourself to oddsmarket.com. You can see all of their content. You can break it down. You can revisit it. You can revisit these videos. But these boys are absolutely on fire. And I would say, along with Dave Betts, who's doing UFC, no one is touching them. Boys, we'll talk through the tournament. Good luck on Vekic and Keys. I would quite like Madison Keys at 2s to get through her quarterfinal. Till next time, I'll see you soon, boys.
Speak to you later.
Cheers. Take care.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely on sizzle mode, them lads. Right, tomorrow, Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, getting ourselves ready for the weekend. Strange results last week. Here at Oddsmarket. We'll be back on track tomorrow. Take care.